In project 3, we wrote a proposal for this main collaboration project. So we are going to discuss whether or not we met any of those objectives, any of those aims, or if we met them a little bit, or we could have met them more. The first one was foster a supportive and reflective learning environment that encourages open communication and collaboration. Do you feel we achieved any of that at any level?
Yes. Yeah, I do. I think that, mostly communication was pretty good. Um, I think that there were times that we encouraged communication each as well. I think having the messenger communication was really good because then we could use it like emails whereby you send it and then someone else checks when they get up, or it could be done, or it could be live. So if we're both awake at the same time and available to kind of talk at the same time, it worked really well. So definitely communication was there most of the time. Um, I think we're pretty supportive of each other along the way. I like to hope we were. Um,
Yeah, I agree. I think we did achieve this at some level. Like the communication was definitely good. There was definitely encouragement there. You're like, you're super busy, you've got a lot going on, don't worry about it. Just do what you can when you can, or when you wanted me to send you something and vice versa, or we openly asked for feedback, we replied to that. But yeah,
yeah,
I think I had completely forgotten about this objective personally. So I
yeah.
think if I had that sort of like printed or written down in something that I'm looking at most days, I would have been more active in especially the supportive reflecting part, being a
Mhm.
bit more like this, trying to influence either voice calls, video calls. I
Yeah.
think like weekends we have been able to meet up when we wanted to. We just didn't because we agreed to once a month initially. Until now, we didn't plan to do it more often, but we always had it open. We always could if we wanted to.
It's also been, the reflective bit has been a challenge a bit as well. We've both reflected individually, I think.
Yeah,
And I think we've probably done that right the way through the project, but it's been a little bit more difficult, again, having those meetings more often would have
yeah,
allowed us that time to be more reflective on what each other were doing as
yeah.
well.
I think like one way I would approach that differently is we had like one thing at a time and then we met up and spoke about it. And one thing that we wanted to share, meet up and speak about, then obviously not wanting to restrict when you had free time, you made a load of stuff. Or not wanting to restrict that, but then have you choose something for us to talk about and vice versa. I think that would be something I would do differently next time for
Yeah.
that aim.
Yeah. Sounds like a plan, I think. I think the
If
problem is, well, with collaboration, you get kind of, we're quite involved in our own, what we're doing
yeah,
ourselves, as in, our practical work individually as well, that it then becomes quite difficult sometimes to shift your thinking from going straight from what you're doing to what someone else is doing. And maybe a little bit like the silent, I've never done a silent crit, by the way, but I believe that what you do is you share it and then people can answer it. So
yeah,
kind of using that sort of thing whereby you almost submit to each other a piece of work so that you can then come to some sort of idea of what you want to say about it. If
yeah.
I'm rubbish being put on the spot, I'll just go, I don't know, everything's okay.
That's
Yeah.
definitely something I would want to try going forward. But like you say, it's part of our OCA journey so far has mostly been very independent. So to switch into thinking we need to discuss more and be more active participants, it's a hard switch. And like we said, with the time difference as well,
Yeah.
it was tricky. But yeah, I think looking back, there are times we could have gone like, okay, this day, this time, every week, it's going to be booked in. And then if for whatever reason we can't do it that week, we just say so, and maybe we do email or something. And but then having it in on a weekly would make us go, okay, I need to do this, I need to have this prepared. Maybe that would have
Yeah.
been something to try in the
Yeah.
future.
Yeah, maybe.
The second one, create innovative work influenced by music, sound, and artist exchange, integrating methods from other creative disciplines. I think you definitely did that. You definitely explored more and you tried more things and you definitely went abstract trying to play with sound, which is new for both of us. But neither of
Yeah.
us are used to working from sound-based stuff. So I know at the beginning I worked definitely a lot more by myself with the sound to try and make some connection and figure out how to work towards it. And you went with balancing a little bit more what I did early on.
Yeah.
I started that later than what you did. And but yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think I went into it with trying to be as open minded as I could and not try everything possible. I certainly did some stuff that I have done before in with you know, what I did that I haven't done before, but a lot of what I've done, it has been influenced by either you or other artists or the music, which is something that, OCA I've not done before. So
Yeah.
I've enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, I don't think I personally used any new material because I've always done painting, drawing, I've done video and media several times, I've done poetry several times, I've done sculpture several times, I've done performance before. The only new was the embroidery thread and the mala beads, but they're new to OCA.
Yeah.
I've used them in my own personal stuff or with my students before, but I have developed more skills in those areas with doing them differently. I haven't
Yeah.
used them the same than what I have done before. But my newest thing was, like I was saying, taking your sounds or your work and mine and combining them and then keep building and building and building. So normally, yes, I would do a work influenced by something, which might lead into something else, but isn't directly related to. So I feel this, I've done more chains. I've
Yeah.
done work which is more related to the last thing and a more evolved version each time
Hmm.
I've gone back to it. So I think that's my newness and explorative for me in this unit. Rather than it being
Yeah.
materials, it's been continuing trying to evolve the idea in different ways.
Yeah. And also, there has been, we've had artist exchange as well in there.
Yeah.
So, I think although I probably did more on this particular section, I think you've done what you could do and it's gone, I think your stuff's gone quite well as well. So, I think we kind of we got there.
Yeah, I think we achieved this aim. I think we achieved
Yeah.
this aim. Okay, so three, embrace creative risk-taking and experimentation to push boundaries in style and technique. I think from looking at your work and how you've spoken about it, you've definitely done that. You tried completely new stuff and you've returned to it a few times to try it in new ways. And again, for myself, I don't think my only risk taking I think I've done is playing with the sounds in the audio, overlapping sounds, playing with fading in, fading out, combining completely different sounds that wouldn't normally go together, like I did with the Journey video. And when I've done videos before, it's normally just been images and then a sound. It's not normally been playing
Yeah.
around with those sounds. And
I think we've both done a bit of experimentation with that. Um, I've done a lot less of like the poetry and writing kind of side of stuff. I have stuck to more of a physical, practical, arty type um, way of working. But I do feel that we have both embraced risk taking and we have experimented.
yeah,
Um, you know, even starting from, I know that you've done a little bit of that at school before, but you know, working to music is not something that we've done as part of the course before. And trying to take it on further for you than, you know, initial mark making that you would do at school is a bit of a push, actually.
Yeah.
um and that's what you've done. You've taken it from, you know, you've got the song that you're listening to, and then you've taken it on and on and on, which isn't something you've done before. um so yeah, you've definitely pushed those boundaries as well.
Yes. And like I say, I had a dislocated clavicle during those church bells series stuff, and but again, I just felt like I had to, it took me like what, a week to do instead of a couple of days. And so yes, I pushed my boundaries in
Yeah,
that
and yeah,
sense.
you've definitely pushed physical boundaries, and you know, the boundaries of being able to work when you're not feeling great as
Yeah.
well, physically, probably, and mentally the same. As, you know, I've done that mentally as well, not so much
Yeah.
physically for me. um but there's definitely, you know, I think we've pushed our boundaries quite a lot,
Yeah, personally,
really.
we've gone
Yeah,
through a lot of, each of us have had our own personal journeys to try and
yeah,
overcome during this, and it's had its moments and it's had its effects. So,
yeah,
this has been a distraction, but like I said, we both said before, we've had moments of guilt because we've had
yeah,
to take time away from this to deal with that, and we both have different timings of bursts of energy, and I think partly subconsciously, maybe that's when I've not reached out to you as much because I didn't want to stop your flow and I didn't want to add to you, um, and make you feel like you have to, because you have been more flexible than I have. You've had school holidays, so you've had times where it's been your mornings and my afternoons, or even with the meetings with Caroline, you've been able to take a little bit of time at the end of the workday, so that I can join, the
yeah,
time after I normally would have gone to bed.
yeah,
Um, so I think, yeah, I think again, we have had to an extent definitely achieved this. Um, I want to say for me personally, because I didn't try anything new, but it's again, I've tried everything multiple times over this OCA 4.5 year journey so far. I don't know what else there is new to try other than actual music, which I'm not a musician. I don't have musical instruments. So that would be, I don't know.
yeah.
Um,
And that was kind of where my mind was going in the last few days whilst we've been finishing stuff off. I was like, shall I try some music? I am not a musician. And I was like, I try and bring something back to music, but I didn't do
Yeah,
that.
because I wrote that poem. I wrote the brand new poem when we started to sit down and put all our slides together and stuff. And I was going to add more audio, play with audio again, try it with the sound and stuff. I'm like, I could do that, but right now I need to really focus on this final thing, and
Yeah,
then this wouldn't be in the final thing anyway. So it's better to conserve my time and energy. But I was just thinking, like the push boundaries, like we said earlier, maybe if we had more critique style meetings, we could have helped each other push our
yeah,
development boundaries a little bit more. Um, but yeah,
yeah. And also, if more people have been on this unit before as well, you know, there's not really much to work from
yeah,
online that other people have done. So we're kind of, it's a bit of a stab in the dark, really.
yeah. We didn't feel like we had guidance. Um, which would have been nice when you're completely new. I know like a lot of the exercises was looking at artists that collaborate with different disciplines, but there's nothing, well, there's very little on how they approached each other originally, what they originally started with, and how they built into that final progress. Like we did have some short parts about how people did collaboration in different ways, which we can see some mirroring that we did, similar to these other people. But yeah, I think we could have done with more guidance on how to start, how to approach, just a starting point on how to develop a collaboration style relationship to be able to help us foster more supportive, more reflective
Yeah.
way. I think
And also the
the
risk
course could,
taking bit.
yeah. Okay, so the fourth objective we had, or the aim, was to learn more about ourselves and who we might be as artists. Wendy?
Personally, I think I've done that. I think I'm not sure I've necessarily come across something that I'm going to use forever and ever, and it's going to be my new style or anything. But I've certainly learned quite a lot of new techniques and different ways of working. Um, I guess in some ways I haven't learned a huge amount about myself in some ways because I knew I work better with others than I do on my own. Because when I get to those kind of full stop points where I could push on, I kind of get a bit of a block, almost a bit like writer's block, I guess, where I would stop. Whereas with this, I've come back to something and then done more on it and done more on it and done more on it. And that has helped me. So, but I knew that already. So I haven't learned that. That's not new. But I've definitely come across lots of different, styles of working and stuff that will be useful. Things like sticking wire together that I've learned in the last 24 hours that has been a nightmare.
Yeah,
I may or may not ever work with wire again. Who knows?
yeah.
Um, what about you, Patricia? I mean, I, I think we've both learned lots about ourselves, really, kind of overall. But I kind of feel that maybe your bit is learning that maybe you can overcome some of the stuff that gets put in your way, even though it's difficult.
And I've always had some chronic health issues, but it's always been maybe a month. And it's never been anything that requires invasive medical attention. I've not learned much about myself as an artist. Apart from that, yes, I do work better going from a little bit of research, a little bit of planning, a little bit of reading around stuff before I start making. And I did that because that's what we were asked to do in OCA, but I did that here in the projects that I felt were more successful. And so I think that is now part of my process to making a successful work. And because I work across so many different mediums and so many different subjects, I don't have a niche area of medium or subject. I can't say what kind of artist I am, but I am starting to see that yes, I often have some kind of narrative in my work, and whether it be the two cultures meeting or the juxtaposition between the birds and the motorbikes and making that into abstract and a little fun and wanting people to engage in it. I want people to look at my art and ask themselves a little bit about it in some way. That's something I would like more of. Um, so I'm starting to see that I am more comfortable in trying to do that, and I'm starting to do that more automatically other than being told to do that. And I do think my work is more successful in my perspective from doing that. And so I guess, yeah, I maybe learned something about my process as an artist.